All right, how's it going, guys? Welcome to the Desi podcast. This is actually our second recording, as the first one got copyrighted, so we've had to re-record. And
YouTube
so
fucked us.
technically, yeah, so technically this is our first recording.
The re-recording of the first recording.
Yeah. So this podcast is basically just an open conversation between two brown dudes, Indian dude, Punjabi dude, and
Basically,
we hope to cover a lot of important topics that we feel aren't really spoken about in terms of the Desi community, and hopefully we can raise some awareness and change the norms. All right, so I guess we can just kind of free flow into our first topic. Our first topic is kind of about just general happiness and what that brings about. So I guess I can kind of start with like a precursor, I guess. I've never really felt unhappy, I guess, like in my life. I don't know if you can speak to this, but like I guess like being pretty privileged even while being a person of like
Of color?
immigrant and of color.
Mhm.
Like I guess I've never really felt unhappy in like in any terms. I guess I just tend to like not really care about things. What do you think? What do you think?
Um, yeah, I'd say I'm generally in the same boat. Most of the time, like you could say, when it comes to like friends and stuff, I remember when I was like just in high school, like the first year, like I didn't really know anybody except for, or at least I thought I didn't know anybody until I realized there was people from like my junior high who went there, but when you're alone, like when you feel alone and all that, like it kind of makes you unhappy, right? So,
Yeah, I guess I
I
could
guess that was
say
like
that
the
kind of.
main time.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the
also
only
went to
time
a
where
friggin' I also went to a high school that wasn't like I didn't take like nobody came with me to Nally.
Mhm.
So like it was kind of weird not having any friends. Like obviously I had like
Yeah.
changed like transition schools from elementary to junior high. But junior high is kind of
Mhm.
like a different environment because like in junior high people don't really it's not really I guess you don't really have like niches of like friend groups and stuff in junior high. More
Mhm.
so like everyone's kind of like grouped together and it's way easier to make friends because you're doing a lot more activities with like a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
people. And there's like recess and stuff, so like you go out and have fun with people. But like in high
Yeah.
school, like if you don't talk to anybody, bro, nobody's gonna talk back to you. Like everybody, like a lot of people
Mhm.
already have their own friends, and nobody really like cares to make new ones. Because like I feel like a lot of people are in like an awkward stage in high school where like they have like
Yeah.
the people they want to talk to and not really much else. Yeah, but I haven't really, I don't know. I have like a really weird mindset where like it's kind of, I guess, ignorant in a sense, where I don't really
Mhm.
care about like what's going on really. I'm more so
Yeah.
like just here to like chill kind of in this world.
Yeah.
Like
I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of the same because like most of the time, like I'm really oblivious to many things that happen. So, like I'm just sitting here just like fucking like throwing rocks around or some shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I see like a lot of people like online. Like there's obviously a lot of issues in the world right now and people kind of are raising
Mhm.
awareness for it. And I'm a part of different volunteer groups and I like to raise awareness for certain issues like I care about and I see like the value in
Mhm.
that and I see the benefit to like general society of like people working together to help others. But other than that, like I don't really like find myself like if I see I don't know something go down on social media or whatever, I don't really find myself caring too much. I'm just like
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe it's like I see life in a more mature perspective where like I guess I'm not here to care about like I'm just kind of just here to chill and like make the most of it out of
Mhm.
like my own life instead of worrying about others.
Yeah. It could also be the like how like in school and everything they talk about the desensitization to media. How
Yeah.
like you're exposed to like I don't know, like now you're exposed to like 10 hours of media like on average per day, right? And so it might be that desensitization to that. or it could be what you're saying, how you're kind of more laid back. But
Yeah, have you seen
yeah,
like
there's many factors that contribute to the way you feel about social media and what you see in the media.
yeah, have you seen like cancel culture and stuff? Like, dude, that stuff's getting crazy. Like
Yeah.
literally every 2 or 3 days, a new person is getting
Yeah.
canceled. Like some video from like 8 years ago will resurface of somebody like saying some discriminatory words or doing
Mhm.
something or like that's generally now like that may not have been considered as bad back then because I guess
Mhm.
the norms were just a little like people were just a bit like there was a bit more dark humor, I guess, or I guess the humor has just changed over time. But I don't see
Mhm.
the benefit in like cancel culture. What do you think?
Oh yeah. I feel like because it started off as more of a way to like keep people accountable, right? Like you know how large creators and everything, how they have a lot of power over people. Like as I said earlier, people are exposed to 10 hours of media, or just mainly children, they're exposed to 10 hours of media per day, right? And so, like on average, but like if you and they're like spending time watching like big content creators, fucking Logan Paul and shit. So like when that's the case, you kind of have to keep those people accountable, and that's how it started. But now it's kind of like morphed into, who can I cancel today? Like it's kind of morphed into that. But you know, let, what are some things that make you happy? Like, let's get off the topic of
Yeah,
culture real quick.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I think first of all, I guess we have to kind of define what happiness is. What do you think? I think
yeah.
personally, happiness is just the absence of like stress and worry for me personally. Like if I
Hmm.
have no reason to be stressed or worried about anything, then I guess I'm happy. What about you?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say I'm in the same boat. Like when you don't have to worry about anything, when you're not like, cramming for a fucking midterm or some shit. Like when you're just chilling and you're having a good time, yeah, that's when you're happy. At least for me.
Yeah, the
Did you cut
second
out?
thing I guess the second thing we can kind of mention is do you think money brings you happiness?
I'd say, when the money goes into the bank account, it feels pretty good. But, like like uh like I don't know, like it's kind of weird because you don't want to spend it, right? Because you don't want it to leave, right? Because you know you're spending all the money, but I don't know, like I'd say like because mainly most of the time I don't worry about it because most of my parents buy me shit, right? So I don't have to worry about it. But I'd say having like a good like backup amount of money to make you feel secure is where money can, because you need money to do like almost anything, right? At least in this world and like for the past like 100 years. So
Yep. Yeah, I think again it plays to the fact that happiness is like the absence of worry. When you have a lot of
yeah,
money and you have all the things you want, I guess, and you're not stressed out about like buying
yeah,
anything or keeping
security.
food on the table, it's yeah, it's that sense of security, and that's where I guess
Hmm.
happiness can like sorry, money can bring you happiness. But I don't know, maybe like I like neither of us are like rich. Like we're not like
Yeah,
beyond rich, like buying like $7,000 shoes
Bugattis
every
and
day
shit.
and
Yeah,
but like I don't know. I don't see myself becoming any happier having any more like
yeah,
things that I
right.
do now. Because like
I'd say like maybe traveling and shit, but like
yeah,
at the
definitely.
same time, like I don't know, like it's probably not gonna be too big of a change because I'm pretty happy right now. But what are some things that actually bring you happiness? Like what are some activities that you do that like make you happy?
I don't know. I guess probably playing video games,
Yeah.
hanging out with the homies, or like going on drives.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the thing like I'm noticing now as I'm thinking about it, we never really think about the things that like truly bring us happiness because maybe like
Hmm.
we're just I think it's maybe the fact that there's no reason for us to not be in a constant state of happiness because we're so privileged, and maybe that's why I can't think of what I've never actually thought about like while I'm happy that like yo right now I'm pretty happy. The only time I really thought
Yeah.
about me being like happy is like if I'm like driving and going into like a deep state of thought, I'll think about how like life is like really good right now, and like I don't have
Hmm.
anything to like worry about in some cases. Like it'll just
Oh
make
yeah.
me smile, I guess that I'm happy that I've been given this life, and I'm like I wouldn't wish to have anybody else's in any case, I guess.
Oh yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. Some of the things that make me happy, video games. We be playing Warzone and shit. That should be kind of fun. Uh, Sea of Thieves, yeah. More stuff like I'd say like getting outside. Like there's nothing better than like fucking breathing fresh air and shit. You know, and like biking or I just I got a telescope for my birthday, right? And like just looking at the moon and shit. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So I'd
I've
say
thought
like most.
about, yeah, like whenever I go out to like Banff and stuff, like when I go to like
Oh
different,
yeah.
like I would love to live in a place where there's just like fresh, breathable air. Like I love going to
Mhm.
Jasper. Like sometimes when I'm driving to like BC or something, we'll stop by the side of the road and like near Jasper, and we'll just start breathing the air near like the huge forests. And the air is
Just
just so
breathing.
much, yeah, the air is so much cleaner there, and like
Yeah.
it
Oh
feels.
yeah.
I would love to have like if there was like easy ways to like accessibility to water and stuff. I would love to live in like Banff or Jasper, because I know you can't live in Banff because like the you can't like buy a house there because like only people who like work there can live there, because like otherwise like everybody would just like move
Oh
to
okay.
Banff. But like I would love to live in a
Mhm.
place like that where like there's just fresh, accessible air, and you're surrounded by wilderness, even though it might be scary at night.
Yeah. Or at least like have like a cabin or some shit just to escape to when like
Yeah,
when like all the stresses of life and shit, like
yeah,
just a place to escape and have like, just to breathe the fucking air.
yeah. Have you ever thought about how people kind of tell you, like, do you think like we always see on like social media, like you see like all these like stars like posting pictures of them like smiling and on like all these trips and stuff. But I feel like I've always
Mhm.
like thought about how these people are like truly unhappy in actuality, like in terms of like not their quality of life, but I guess the amount of stress and worry these like celebrities may have, especially with like
Mhm.
all that's going on in their lives. I've always thought about like third world countries and how truly happy some of the people are there, just because they're so absent
Mhm.
of like worry, and they have nothing to
Yeah.
stress about other than putting food on the table. And a lot of them, like I always thought about how like some poor children, they're like I've always thought about. There's always things about been this thing in my mind, like poor children who have like no food or water, they're unable to cry because they have
Yeah.
no water in their body to cry out, and that's why they're, I guess, always happy in some form. It's a
Mhm.
weird thought, but I don't know. I've always thought about how like I feel like we make life overcomplicated, and people tell you that like you should be sad, I guess, some way. I don't know, but we make over life overcomplicated. And I feel like if we lived more simpler and just got rid of all our stress and worry, I feel like we would just be happier.
Yeah, right? And I feel like in some cases like if people had a little bit more empathy, like if they had if they were able to like more or less like just be more understanding of other people and realize that like everybody's gone through their own shit, everybody's doing their own thing, and like everybody does everything that they're doing according to what they've been through, and you know like th- that's just that's just how I think, like if like a more happy interactions between people
Yeah,
or more productive interactions.
one thing I've thought about is like how like mental health, like since we're on the topic of happiness, I've always
Hmm.
thought about how a lot of brown families downplay like mental health in general and like depression and stuff
Hmm.
as being or stress as being like an a like act of like low willpower, like not having enough like willpower to like, or like enough mental strength to like not be
Hmm.
sad and like always be happy, or like not be stressed out. Even I had that
Yeah.
mentality just because I've like grown up in like brown culture and like Punjabi culture of like mental
Yeah.
health being like even though it's called mental illness, like it actually being like an illness that is curable, but like I guess people just don't cure it, like it all being a thing of willpower. But like I've come to realize that like a lot of times it's like either you just can't help it just because of the circumstances of your life, or like it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. And I feel like we should be
Hmm.
more accepting, like as you were saying, empathetic with people and like
Yeah.
accepting of, especially in the Punjabi community of who of like what they're going through and why they're depressed
Yeah.
instead of just being toxically masculine and saying that it's like
Yeah.
all about it's just being like I guess a wussy in some
Yeah.
in some form.
Yeah. Like whatchamacallit, in anthropology, right? Like, cause I'm taking a couple classes on that. There's the topic of cultural relativism, which is where like essentially it just means, some societies and some cultures do have traditions because that's what they've known for like however long they've been around, right? And so when anthropologists go to study these societies, they have to have like a more objective frame of mind or a more neutral frame of mind and put their, I guess, like their thoughts aside and look at how look at how to study these societies from like a more neutral state of mind. And instead of putting their, I guess, you could say,
I guess being stereotypical or
yeah,
like
or putting their thoughts on the matter or whatever.
I
And
guess
so,
forcing your cultural norms or like
yeah.
your own norm upon them. Another thing I guess we can kind of move on to is like as a result of like um like, I guess just moving back to like kind of the money aspect of money and happiness.
Hmm.
Just kind of moving into how brown like Punjabi culture and Indian culture is right now. One thing that I've always thought about is like flex culture
Yeah.
and like drugs and alcohol and we're me and you are probably gonna have some unpopular opinions right here because we don't
Hmm.
really drink or do any drugs, and
Yeah.
I understand that like some people drink and do drugs because they can't help it, either because they're addicted or because they have some mental health issues going on, and
Hmm.
drugs may in some form like ease that for them and make it easier for them to like go about their lives day to day, or because they have some like physical conditions like where they like need to do medical marijuana or other drugs to like literally maintain their health.
Yeah.
But one thing I've always detested is one word you say is the act of flexing your
Uh-huh.
your your drugs
Your wealth.
and your
Oh
not only
yeah,
your wealth but
that shit
like
too.
flexing doing drugs and alcohol as if it's like a show of like wealth or a show of some sort of
Being
superiority
cool.
you have over other people that
Yeah.
don't do
So
drugs or that may not do as expensive drugs or may not drink Hennessy or may not drink like Ciroc or whatever these men them are posting.
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Like I don't like. It's not like that. I hate it, but like like what's the reason? Like you don't need to.
Yeah, I don't
I
see
guess.
the benefit of posting some posting something that's like not good for you. Like literally just
Yeah.
literally flexing the fact that you're doing something to hurt your body. I don't know. I've gotten into some heavy conversations with like friends of mine regarding this stuff,
Hmm.
where like asking them why they vape or why they drink or other stuff, and it's
Nicotine
always
shake. Yeah.
it's always like I don't know, maybe there's like a sense of denial or something that I
Hmm.
feel like it's that thing about like your ego trying to protect you, where like you're
Yeah.
attacking an insecurity of theirs because they know it's something that they shouldn't be doing, I guess. But a lot of people are
Hmm.
super insecure about the fact that they vape when they're actually asked about it. I don't think they're insecure about the fact that they're doing it. I think they're insecure when when people that don't do it question them, because like
Hmm.
it makes them question themselves about why they're doing certain things that
Yeah.
may hurt their body.
And sometimes it's kind of like a coping mechanism to whatever they're doing in their life. It could be an escape.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what
understand that.
yeah, that's what addictions are. They're ways that people use to cope with whatever's happening in their life at the time. And that's not the main reason why addictions happen, but like that's one of the reasons that people try to use these substances, these activities to escape from whatever stress they're feeling, whatever thing they're going through in their life
Yeah, and
at the
I
moment.
still don't
Yeah.
understand. Like maybe somebody could comment if anybody actually watches this. Why
Yeah.
flexing? I understand. I could see why you flex your house or why you flex your cars. I guess it's good to be proud of like even if they're not
Yeah.
your own accomplishments, it's cool to be proud of your parents or how far your family has come. I understand that.
Hmm.
Even though it might seem kind of douche douche-ish, like in front of other
Douches.
people,
Yeah.
because like you're kind of showing off. But I don't
Yeah.
understand the act of like posting you drinking lean or drinking alcohol or something on the internet because like it's really not. I guess in my opinion, as somebody who's never done drugs and probably will never do any any type of
Hmm.
drug, I don't see nor do I see the benefit of doing them if you're just doing them for fun or to have a good time. Because I feel like you can
Yeah.
have just as much of a good time without them. Like I could see why
Yeah.
like you get loose and all that stuff, but I feel like if you're like I guess it's that cliche of being high on life. If you're actually truly happy
Yeah.
and you're like truly like absolved of any worry, I feel like you can be
Hmm.
just as much a life of the party.
Oh yeah. Like what you call it? Like drugs and stuff, like I don't really have a problem when people post it. Like I'm not sitting there like being like, "Oh, why you posting this shit, man? Like why you doing this? Why you do this?" Like it doesn't really like it doesn't that doesn't really happen. But at the same time, like yeah, like when you actually question the people doing it and you like you ask them like like why you always posting this shit? It kind of does speak to maybe an insecurity with that they feel within themselves. Earlier today, I was talking to my sister and we were talking about like the dudes, like they're like the bloody bastard dudes, like the bloody blender, like that dude. And
Yeah.
we were like, yeah, and me and her were going back and forth, and I didn't realize that my mom was like in her room, like trying to go to sleep, listening to us fucking going back and forth with like bloody bastard and shit. Like like
You,
she
I
had no
remember that
clue.
video. No, you bloody
Yeah.
blender.
Yeah, me and you were literally in an Xbox party. Like, honestly, I don't even know how long ago it was, but like, we were just fucking sitting there, just laughing at that shit for like for like 30 minutes, dude. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do
but
you? What do you think of your own like relationship? Like, you don't have to speak like too much about it, but like,
oh yeah,
do you think you're a totally
it,
different person inside your house versus out of your house with like your friends and stuff?
um, I'd say like when I'm out in public, like I'm not as like energetic as I am inside my house. Like, I'm like fucking. Cause I really like playing basketball, right? So I'm just jumping around like smacking the ceiling and shit, right? So so like like I have like a more like playful relationship with my parents, and like we're just chilling, right? And so like yeah, I don't really see any difference between me out in public and with my parents at home, other
Yeah,
than the fact that I might swear a bit more with when I'm with my friends.
I feel like you should try and build a relationship with your parents, especially now. I hope most of our listeners are a bit older, especially now that we're like almost adults, like actual adults. You should be able to behave as you would normally around your parents, and you should build a trusting relationship like that. Like especially like with my dad and my mom, I feel like I can talk to them about mostly anything. Like now, like
Yeah,
because they've kind of like I guess the way my parents the way my parents kind of have parented is
yeah,
especially my dad. He'll just embarrass me with things like you know how like it's embarrassing to talk to your dad or your mom about like girls or like other things.
hmm,
I guess they've just embarrassed me to a point where like it's just become normal to talk about those things, which I see the
hmm,
benefit to that. Like my dad's embarrassed me about like talking to girls and stuff so much that like I'm more open to talking to him about things going on in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, when it comes to talking to girls, right? Like with my parents, or at least with my dad, this guy's like, "Oh, you're gonna get married, and that's it." And then like you're not gonna talk to girls. And I'm like, "Okay, nice, nice, dude." But like, yeah, I'd say when it comes to like stuff like like the opposite sex, he's kind of like he's more closed off, or he just doesn't like want to talk about that stuff. But when it comes to other shit, like just like other like I guess heavy topics. Not saying that talking to girls is a heavy topic, because like whatever.
It
But
is in brown culture.
yeah, yeah, in brown culture it is kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like we're all like most of the time, like all our parents, like most of the time are like arranged marriage, right?
Yep.
And there's like a whole, you know, that's mainly how we that's mainly how people get married, right?
Yep.
And so when it comes to like just going out and talking to people, like how there's like I guess like game and stuff, right? You didn't really need to like you don't really have to talk to your parents about like getting a girlfriend and all this shit, because you're gonna get arranged marriage. So you know,
Yeah.
I guess it is like a more difficult topic to talk about with brown parents, or Desi parents, or Punjabi parents,
Before
or
we kind
Indian
of like
parents.
go on
Where
to
the
like a
fuck?
before we go on to like a message to parents, I guess about this topic, I guess I can share
Yeah,
a little bit of a story like you have. I think my
yeah.
dad like super. We're only me and you are both only 18 now,
Yeah.
and my dad's like super. He like asks me like every third or fourth day, like he shows me a chick on Facebook and he's like, "You want to get married?" I'm like, "Dude, can you chill out, buddy?"
What the?
And it gets annoying for me personally because like I don't want to get arranged. Like I don't want to get an arranged. Like my parents know I don't, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
like open to me not getting one, I guess. But I don't want to get an
Mhm.
arranged marriage because like ultimately, like I just like again going back to the topic of happiness. Like ultimately, I know that I won't be happy if I get an arranged marriage, and as a result, like my whole family like that non happiness or like sadness will
Mhm.
kind of spread throughout my family, and I guess it'll just be like a miserable time for my entire family in that case. Because like I feel like when
But at
one
the
member
same
in your
time,
house is like mad or sad, it kind of
yeah.
like just ruins the entire
Oh yeah.
environment of the house. What were you gonna say?
Mhm. Oh yeah. But at the same time, how are you gonna know that you're gonna be unhappy with an arranged marriage? Like, like an arranged marriage at like it's random, like just a arranged marriage is random, and then it's also random with the person, like whoever is like with you, right? So
Yeah,
how do you know that you're gonna be unhappy?
I guess
Are
for
you afraid of a relationship, or are you just what you call it, like do you just want to be like, at least like in your current frame of mind, do you want to be alone?
I guess for me, it's the main thing for me is that I won't like. There's no guarantee that that person will be a good person because you're just basing your
Mhm.
entire opinion of them off of a show, or I guess kind of a show that they put on when you meet them for the first time, like an
Yeah.
act that they might put on, or basing it off a picture of them. And because of that,
Yeah.
like it could fall both ways, I guess. It's not a 50-50 chance, but like you could either get somebody
Yeah.
that's totally amazing and good for your family and like is well raised and stuff, but you could also get a person that's totally different than you and like
Mhm.
totally not the correct life partner for you because you have to spend the next 70 or 80 years with them. And I feel like for me
Yeah.
personally, I'd like the guarantee that like I'd first want to be best friends with this person
Yeah.
before anything happens.
And there's also like the hybrid arranged marriage, where like where you meet some random and then you just chill with them for like 2 years and then you get married, or you just don't fucking whatever, like you don't get married to them. Which I'd say is like like I'd say it's a good like halfway point, because then you can like respect your parents' traditions, while at the same time like making sure that this person's right for you.
I guess going back to the story, my dad he keeps on asking me every 2 or 3 days, and like it gets annoying. But I feel like I understand why your parents ask you so much about like you having a girlfriend or you being in a relationship or you
Yeah.
wanted to get married. I feel like it's just because I guess our parents right now, like being in the 40 to 50 years old range, they're
Yeah.
kind of at a point in their life where they've kind of been in the same phase of their life for 20 or 30 years where they've been married and they've had kids and they've just been working. And I feel
Hmm.
like they're kind of excited for the next phase of life where they see their kids full on grow up and have kids of their own and they get to be
Yeah.
grandparents and they kind of, I guess, for at least my parents, like being immigrant parents, a lot of our parents didn't get to spend a lot of time with us when we were younger just because they were working so much. Like we didn't get the same, like we didn't obviously didn't get the same like white parents that are super rich and spent every hour of the day with their kids. So I guess they're kind
Yeah.
of excited to kind of get to experience, like kind of get a redo of anything that they might regret from that phase of our lives, where with our kids, like if we have any.
Oh yeah.
And I guess that's why they're kind of eager for us to get married as well, because it's I guess uh uh the day you get married is a totally new, like it's kind of like a totally new day for them. Like it's one of the best days of their life as well.
Yeah. Um, whatchamacallit? So when it comes to like your goals and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, what made you choose it? Like, when it comes to like maybe a job goal, maybe it comes to like I don't know, like like just a volunteer goal or something like that. Like when it comes to just your main goals in life, what inspires you to make them? Is it a pursuit of happiness? Is it to inspire people? Is it to like just to make a fuck ton of money and then just retire or something? Like
I don't know. I don't really. I guess right
goals,
now,
and like what are the main reasons that inspired your goals?
like for me personally, I don't really have any goals. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of weird to say, but like I have goals, but at the same time, I don't. I don't have any specific goals. Like I guess like finishing university or doing something. I guess my goals are more broad in that sense. Like these miniature goals, like finishing university, would just be a part of these broad goals automatically, and I haven't really thought about them. But I guess the
Yeah.
broad goals that I have that inspire me like to do stuff every day is to ultimately just live a life that I'm proud of at the end of the day. And that
Hmm.
honestly, I don't care if I make a lot of money. I don't care if like I'm not dead set on leaving millions and millions of dollars behind for like the next four generations of my family.
Yeah.
I'm not here to like I'm not here to worry about anybody else's future too much because like I think at this
Yeah.
point I'm worried about my own and like I'm my main goal is just to like live a life of happiness and so at the end of the day if I feel like if I've made a lot of money or I've done a lot of this or a lot of that that won't ultimately like at the end of the day if when I'm dying the first thing I'm going to think about is was I happy in life and did I make the most of life in terms of seeing the world, doing having experiences that would encompass something like I could do in the physical form of myself, like experiencing nature and experiencing the earth and all its beauty and spending time with my friends and family and making sure that all my relationships were the best that they could be and all that instead of having actual material goals like getting a house in the most expensive city in the world. Because
Oh
ultimately,
yeah.
I don't think when I'm dying, I'm going to be thinking about these things. I'm going to be thinking about
Yeah.
whether or not I was a good person and whether or not I had a happy life.
Yeah, like that's a good point that you brought up. Like, are you gonna be thinking about like what are you gonna be thinking about when you're dying? Like, are you gonna be thinking about that house, or are you gonna be thinking about all the shit that you regret?
Yeah,
Like, or all the times that you missed because you were trying to make like a bunch of money or something? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like
like
I don't want to be that
yeah,
guy that's like I'm not saying that anybody like you're bad for doing this or whatever, but I don't want to be that
yeah,
person who's so dead set focused on their career that life blew by so fast that they didn't realize when like when they miss out on all these experiences that are so crucial
hmm,
to your own happiness and to making you I guess whole at the end of at the end of your life.
yeah. And like that's like kind of the dilemma for many people, like do I focus on my career or do I focus on this? And like, you can find that balance, but I'd say like it's pretty hard finding like a balance between because you have to either dedicate yourself to like one or the other, right? And so finding a balance is pretty hard.
Yeah, and
And so,
I understand people who are like, I want to leave behind a legacy because like
yeah.
I think people are concerned with what they're gonna leave behind on Earth as a memory of them, and I understand why my dad works so hard to like make money because he wants to leave behind something for like me and my kids so that he's remembered for a long time, not like unlike like
Hmm.
many of the people that may have been in his life or like my mom's life who they don't remember anymore because they were insignificant, I guess, in some terms. I guess they don't want to be insignificant after they've passed. I understand that. But I feel like
Hmm.
for me personally, it's more important for me to be significant while I'm here.
Yeah. And one of the things like I heard this like I don't know if it was like Neil deGrasse Tyson or something or like some random like astrophysicist or like life coach some random dude said this.
Yeah.
And he was like your life like in the grand scheme of the universe, right? Your life is like a drop and a drop and a drop of an ocean of fucking of water or some shit. So like when you really think about it like how like kind of like small we are, it kind of puts it into perspective like just live your life, you don't need to put leave behind this legacy. You don't have to do all this random shit, just have fun with your kids or something. Have make a life worth living, like you don't have to bury yourself in work and all this other shit
Yeah,
just
I
to
feel
make
like
a
you could
life.
be the greatest of people. You could have been president, you could have been anything. Your name could be in the history books. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, if you had zero opportunity to build a relationship with your children, or you had zero opportunity to, if you didn't have an opportunity to get married, or your marriage fell out because you weren't there, or you didn't get to spend time with like your extended family or your parents, and they died, and you didn't, you now regret the fact that you didn't like get to spend time with them. I feel
Mhm.
like that's a greater worry to me than living a luscious material life where
Mhm.
I've experienced all I can in terms of like being rich and posting pictures online of me with my Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
Yeah. And another one of those things is like, like people living outside of their purpose. Like, like people whose skills and like I guess education, all that stuff do not align with what they're doing with their life and like what their mindset is, right? And so when people live outside of their purpose, they're not living to their full potential. And so, like that's the thing that, I'm worried about. I don't want to live um outside of my potential.
Yeah, and I guess another thing to like think about is like thinking about like true happiness and stuff is what's the like for me personally, I don't want to do I don't want to do a career or like be or have a job that ultimately makes me unhappy because like I
Hmm.
know like when I'm bored or like I have to be, I guess, mentally engaged at all times. Like I'm super like hyperactive, I guess, where like that's why I like always have to be doing something. Like I can't just sit there like with my eyes closed. I always have to have like either have to be on my phone or like reading something or doing any, like I could do anything but just sit there. I don't want to be in a
Uh-huh.
career where I'm like unhappy because of that or because I don't actually like what I'm doing. I think that ultimately
Yeah.
I could become the greatest of great lawyers or doctors or engineers, but ultimately like I think at the end of the day when I die, I think I'll be less sad about not living as fortunate a life as I could than about living an unhappy life in terms of going to work from 9 to 5 every day, miserable, regardless of how much I get paid.
Yeah. And there's also this video that I watched. It was like, oh, how like the reason why you only have like 10 years left of your life to live or some shit, right? And
Yeah.
so like it goes off like on this whole thing like, you're working a job you hate, there's all this other shit, and then you retire after 20 years and then you're old as fuck so you can't move as well as you could before. And then
Yeah.
and like whatchamacall like and then cause in like a lot of like I guess like North American culture or something, I guess, most people's parents are in retirement homes. So then it talks about how your kids put you in a retirement home because you can't move or some shit. Like, like it's all this like other shit, and then how you really only have 10 years of like actual life that you're living.
Yeah,
Or
we
yeah.
definitely need to. I feel like in Brown family culture, we definitely need to take some time to capitalize on the time we have. I know
Hmm.
a lot of people. Like I know you've traveled a lot. Like like a couple years ago, you went like on a Europe wide like literal tour where you like saw almost all of Europe.
Oh no, I only went to France and Italy. That's it.
That's the most important right there.
Yeah.
That's basically
Oh,
Europe.
okay, okay.
And I've been to a bunch of places in Europe, and I have a couple friends. But I feel like when you're not even I would say I feel like we should be less focused on buying things like having some nice cars or stuff like that. If you can't take us some time to capitalize on the time you have here and go on trips like that with your family. Like I know so
Mhm.
many brown people that just haven't like they're I I bet if they saved even for 2 or 3 years, they'd have enough money to go on a trip like you or me
Yeah.
have, and but they just haven't. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize like a lot of parents they say that once we're retired at 65, we'll go on trips and stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize how old you actually are going to be and how busy your life like your life might even be more busy by then. Like everything's
Yeah.
unpredictable, and people need to start learning to capitalize on their time rather than being so worried about your careers or being so worried about like spending money. Because I know a lot of it's Desi culture to be kind of
Yeah.
not cheap but frugal, I guess. But
Yeah.
y'all need to stop saving for things like that are unimportant in the broad scheme of things and capitalize on your time being a person that can still walk around and
Mhm.
can still function and still run and still do all these things physically that you may not be able to do in soon um and
Yeah.
you need to spend time with your kids because ultimately your kids are also going to get busier and you're going to regret not having gone on these big trips with your kids because
Oh
ultimately
yeah.
they're going to have their own families, all this stuff is going to happen and you need to capitalize on the time you have of being a family where there's no, I guess it's just your main family, I guess there's no your kids don't have kids, there's no grandchildren, all this stuff, all this complicated stuff hasn't come into play yet and
Hmm.
you just need to live. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And like even like one thing that you didn't bring up was the fact that maybe like when like you're always like busy in work and then your kids they may be like taking that as an example of what they should be doing, and instead of having kids themselves they start working crazy and all this shit, and like they like they're following the same footsteps and not doing or not at least living in the now, like they're doing the same shit that you were doing, I guess.
I feel like this plays out two ways. I feel like either you're a stark contrast of your parents
Yeah.
or you're a mirror image. And I feel like that
Mhm.
totally depends on who your parents are as people. Like my dad,
Yeah.
just cause just cause of that like this the way things played out, he's very much different than his parents in many ways. And me
Mhm.
personally, I'm very much alike with like my parents, alike with my parents, I guess, and because they're like I guess if you have good role models, you're more inclined to be like them,
Yeah.
and so you should always be sure. Like I guess you should always. It's important to realize who you are as a person and how life might. I guess it just ties back to how life might play out for you and what kind of motivations you may have, and just capitalizing on time again. And I guess the thing we can
Oh
kind of
yeah.
moving on to like that really. This is like all these topics are connected so well. The next thing that we kind of move on to is death. We've kind of, I guess, covered the deathbed piece, where
Yeah.
what you're gonna be regretting when you die. But I guess one thing that we can cover, like a last final closer to this money and happiness and life debate, I guess, is um, what do you
Would you be
see
afraid to die right now or some shit?
that and
Yeah.
what do you think death is? You can start because I asked the question.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sure. Um, what I think death is like, cause like we're really just like energy walking around, right? Like we're like we eat energy, we shit energy, I guess, and like we fucking use energy to move around. So like we're really just energy, and like energy's been around since the fucking Big Bang and shit. So we're the same energy, but just in different forms since the Big Bang, and we're just gonna be recycled into the universe, I guess. And like there's like I guess like death could just be the recycling of our energy throughout the world. And then it could either be us being like fucking, I guess, reborn into a star or some shit or into a plant. So, like it can go anyway. Like you could say there's a heaven, there's a hell, there's all this shit, but I think it's mainly like cuz I think it's mainly just energy and we're just vibrating at some at whatever frequency that we feel we're vibrating at. So like maybe you're like you're sad all the time, low vibration. If you're happy all the time, you vibrate at a frequency of love, high vibration. And that I guess translate to how your energy is dispersed in the universe, I guess. But yeah, that's generally what I feel death is and how it works.
And are you afraid to die?
Afraid to die.
Like
I'd
right
say
now?
right now, no. I would say like it depends. Like maybe like if I actually had like a gun to my head or some shit. But right now, like if I were to say like because if I were afraid to die right now, I'd say just my initial answer would be no. I'm not afraid to die because all my life, I've had loving parents. I've had siblings, I've had cousins, I've had friends, I've had teachers, I've all this other shit that most people don't really get, right? So I'm grateful for that. And throughout my life, I've learned that everything I've done up until this point is living within my purpose. So like, and what I want my purpose to be is to inspire people. And one of the ways I felt I've done that is through volunteering, through cadets, through like I guess mentoring, and yeah, I feel like every single day that I've lived within my purpose, and I've made a step towards my final goals, or at least like some progress towards my final goals.
Yeah. For me personally, I don't know. I've never really thought about what death is.
Hmm.
I guess I'm not too. Again, I'm ignorant. I guess I'm not too worried about it. I guess just based upon
Yeah.
the fact that I just want to make most of my time here, and I hate when people have the mentality again when they think that there's an afterlife and you may get an opportunity to see people that have died. Like I get the positivity in that where you may get to
Hmm.
see that person again. But again, I feel like it's kind of downplaying the fact that you it's kind of like a defense mechanism, I guess, where you're insecure about the fact that you haven't spent as much time with them as you should have or as much as you wanted to, and you're kind of I guess making an excuse for it, I guess. So I feel like it kind of
Yeah.
plays back to how you could make most of your time with people, especially your parents and stuff. But I don't really know what death is. I've always like obviously when we were younger we always thought about it as like heaven, a place where you go where you see God or you see like ancestors and stuff. But right, I honestly like a lot of people think that because life is so good, death would also be just as good, I guess. But I don't know. I guess I'm not too worried with what death itself is.
Yeah.
But onto the fact of like being afraid about it, I guess. I've never really like if I were to die right now, I guess I would have some regrets that like I haven't been able to do some of the things I've wanted to, or I haven't been able to like obviously like get married, have kids, or I haven't spent time with like certain people in my life that I want to spend time with. But other than that, like I think just based upon the fact that like being privileged and all, like I'm not too like I wouldn't be absolutely devastated
Hmm.
that that I've died. I think I would focus
Yeah.
more on the. I feel like people are too pessimistic, I guess, in the sense where you should be more optimistic about the things that you've been able to experience thus far,
Oh yeah.
rather than the things that you haven't been able to experience. And like I guess this is a call to like all the people listening that you should experience all these things so that when you die you're optimistic about your life rather than having regrets and thinking that you could have done more, because ultimately you
Hmm.
only have one shot. Like it's not it's not a game, I guess, and you have one chance to do everything you want to, and you can't just keep playing stuff off like we'll do it next year or we'll do it in the next 10 years when we're more fortunate or whatever. I feel like people need to capitalize on their time, and enough people in the brown community don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the end of all we had to say. It's been a long one,
Yeah.
shorter than the last one actually, because we only talked about three things, but we went into depth about them this time. We said all we had to say, sort of, and
Do you want to play Warzone? No.
right after this year. But I hope you guys
Hmm.
had a great time listening. I hope you guys got to learn something. I hope you guys have something that you can discuss with your family. Maybe you could start a conversation. Maybe your parents may start a conversation with you if they've heard this. Maybe it'll maybe we've influenced you enough to make you act on some things in your life, capitalize on your time. Maybe we've sparked a conversation, or you're like we've sparked thoughts in your own head that we just
Yeah.
hope that we can bring about change in some form, whatever way we can.
This is just
By
to
talking.
inspire discourse
Yeah.
about constructive topics in this community. So, you know, let's let's start a discussion.
Yeah. Well, that's us, and we're out.